What if the greatest collection of human knowledge did not vanish in a single moment, but slowly faded away over centuries? Imagine a place where hundreds of thousands of scrolls contain the secrets of science, medicine, philosophy, mathematics, and the universe itself. A place where the brightest minds of the ancient world gathered, not only to read, but to question, to challenge, and to discover. This was not just a library, it was the intellectual heart of an entire civilization. This was the Library of Alexandria, located in the ancient city of Alexandria in Egypt, a city founded in 331 BCE by Alexander the Great. This library became one of the most important centers of learning in human history. But today, it no longer exists. So what really happened to it? Was it destroyed in a single catastrophic event? Or did it slowly disappear over time? And perhaps the most important question, what knowledge did humanity lose along the way? This is the story of the rise, the golden age, and the gradual decline of the Library of Alexandria. After the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BC, his vast empire was divided among his generals. One of them, Ptolemy I Soter, took control of Egypt. Ptolemy was not only a ruler, but also a visionary. He understood that power was not only built through armies, but through knowledge. Around 295 BC, he began to develop an idea that was revolutionary for his time, to gather all the knowledge of the known world into a single place. This vision was continued and expanded by his son, Ptolemy II Philadelphus, who transformed Alexandria into a global center of learning. At the heart of this vision was the Library of Alexandria, which became part of a larger institution known as the Mouseion, or the Temple of the Muses. The Mouseion was not simply a building. It functioned as a research institute, where scholars lived, studied, and collaborated. They were supported by the state, given food, housing, and resources, allowing them to dedicate their lives entirely to learning. The library itself is believed to have held between 400,000 to 700,000 scrolls, although the exact number remains uncertain. These scrolls contain knowledge from multiple civilizations, including Greek, Egyptian, Persian, and possibly Indian traditions. Subjects ranged across mathematics, astronomy, medicine, literature, philosophy, and geography. Some historical accounts suggest that ships arriving at Alexandria were inspected for books, and that these texts were copied and preserved in the library. While some details may be exaggerated, they reflect the ambition of the institution to collect and preserve knowledge from across the world. This was one of the earliest attempts in human history to create a universal center of knowledge. For several centuries, the Library of Alexandria flourished, becoming the intellectual center of the ancient world. Scholars traveled from distant lands, bringing with them ideas, discoveries, and curiosity. Among them was Eratosthenes, a Greek mathematician and geographer, who made one of the most remarkable achievements of the ancient world. Around 240 BCE, he calculated the circumference of the Earth with surprising accuracy, using observations of shadows and basic geometry. Other scholars studied the stars, tracked planetary movements, and developed early models of the universe. Advancements were made in medicine, where physicians studied the human body and attempted to understand disease and treatment. Geographers worked to map the known world, combining knowledge from travelers, traders, and explorers. The library was not simply a place where knowledge was stored. It was a place where knowledge was created. Scholars debated ideas, challenged existing beliefs, and pushed the boundaries of human understanding. Different cultures came together in this environment, exchanging knowledge and perspectives. This blending of ideas created a unique intellectual atmosphere, one that had rarely been seen before. Imagine vast halls filled with scrolls, scholars engaged in deep discussion, and an environment driven by curiosity and discovery. This was the golden age of the Library of Alexandria, a time when human knowledge was expanding rapidly and the pursuit of understanding was at its peak. However, like all great institutions, the Library of Alexandria did not remain unchanged forever. Over time, political instability, wars, and social transformations began to affect the city of Alexandria. In 48 BCE, during a conflict involving Julius Caesar, a fire broke out near the harbor. Some historical sources suggest that this fire may have damaged warehouses that stored scrolls. However, there is no clear evidence that the main library building was completely destroyed at that time. In the centuries that followed, the city experienced repeated conflicts, changes in leadership, and shifting priorities. Support for large intellectual institutions like the library began to decline. Funding, protection, and scholarly activity gradually weakened. In 391 CE, during a period of religious conflict, several pagan institutions were destroyed, including the Serapeum, which may have contained part of the library's collection. By this time, the original Great Library may have already been significantly reduced or no longer existed in its original form. Most historians today agree on one important point. The Library of Alexandria was not destroyed in a single dramatic event. Instead, it declined gradually over several centuries, affected by multiple factors including war, neglect, and changing cultural priorities. Because of this, there is no single moment in history that marks its true end. Its disappearance remains a slow and complex process, rather than a sudden catastrophe. The story of the Library of Alexandria is often described as one of the greatest losses in human history. But what exactly was lost? The truth is, we may never fully know. Many scrolls containing knowledge that existed nowhere else may have disappeared over time. Some of this knowledge may have survived, copied, and preserved in other regions. But much of it was likely lost forever. We may have lost scientific discoveries, philosophical ideas, and historical records that could have changed our understanding of the world. It is possible that certain advancements, ideas, or insights were far ahead of their time, and yet they vanished, leaving behind only fragments of what once existed. The loss of the library reminds us of something deeply important. Knowledge is fragile. It can be destroyed, forgotten, or lost if it is not preserved. This is why libraries, archives, and educational institutions remain essential even today. They protect the ideas, discoveries, and history that define human civilization. Even though the physical Library of Alexandria no longer exists, its legacy continues. It represents the human desire to learn, to explore, and to understand the world. It reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge is one of humanity's greatest strengths, and as long as that pursuit continues, the spirit of the Library of Alexandria will never truly disappear.